For more content like this, please hit like and subscribe. And for bonus material, join me on Substack. On the Door of the Stable. One of my favorite works of theology and fiction are the Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. Lewis uses the genre of fairy tale to present the gospel to children. But the fact that he uses the genre of fairy tale doesn't mean that the content is theologically thin. And to the surprise of many, it doesn't mean that he shies away from dealing with difficult topics such as the real struggle we have with evil, our fear of death, the last judgment, or the promises of eternity. In fact, the first-time reader may be surprised by how the series ends. In The Last Battle, the last book in the series, King Tyrion and his small band of loyal followers fight bravely against overwhelming odds. Many of the people of Narnia, deceived by a false Aslan and betrayed from within, lose hope or are enslaved by the invading Calormen. One by one, the faithful are pushed back, and back, toward a small stable, which is the supposed dwelling of the fake Aslan. King Tyrion and the other heroes of the story enter the stable during the final fight, and it is strongly implied that they die in the battle. But instead of finding darkness and defeat or cruelty and death, those who enter the stable discover something astonishing. They are in a bright, wide land that turns out to be Aslan's true country. What looked like defeat becomes a doorway into eternal joy. In the last battle, they are not rescued. They do not conquer their foes. They die. However, Lewis doesn't dwell on the violence of their deaths. Instead, he focuses on what they wake up to. Aslan's country, a place more real, more radiant than Narnia ever was. Later, Aslan explains to some of the other children in the story that they also died in a train crash in their own world. But again, Lewis emphasizes not the trauma of death, but the joy of waking up to the real story, waking up to true life. Lewis reframes what it means to die. What looks like an end is really a beginning. For the faithful, death is not a defeat, it's the entryway into glory. The last battle is a striking and unconventional conclusion to the Chronicles of Narnia, especially when considered alongside of other eschatological frameworks like postmillennialism and pre-tribulational dispensationalism. Lewis does not follow either of those lines. Instead, he crafts a vision of an end rooted in Christian Platonism and deeply Augustinian sensibilities, one that's less about geopolitical resolution and more about unveiling ultimate reality. Let's walk through what Lewis is doing in the ending and how it serves as a theological, philosophical, and narrative capstone to the series. First of all, it's not post-millennial theology. The kingdom doesn't triumph within history. Postmillennialism was incredibly popular at the end of the 19th and the beginning of the 20th century because it teaches that Christ's kingdom will gradually spread and take hold within human history, culminating in a golden age of righteousness before the second coming of Jesus. Lewis explicitly rejects that framework for Narnia. In the last battle, Narnia does not get better. It declines into confusion, deception, and finally collapse. King Tyrion fights valiantly, but even he cannot stop the unraveling of Narnia's world. The ape shift, the false Aslan, and the armies of the Calormen, these all serve to show that history, even in a magical land, ends not in triumph, but in judgment. Narnia's ending is more akin to the collapse of Rome or Jerusalem than to the Golden Millennium. Lewis seems to imply that the world, even a good world like Narnia, is not perfectible by human or even magical talking beast. Instead, creation is good but fallen. It's mortal, and its renewal must come from outside of history. Number two, it's not pre-tribulational. No escape from suffering. Pre-tribulational eschatology emphasizes a rapture that removes believers before the Great Tribulation begins. But in the last battle, Lewis's characters must walk through the tribulation. The children and other faithful Narnians don't get whisked away. They are present as the world is judged. They witness the dismantling of what they've loved. In fact, they're invited into heaven through death, and in the case of the children, through a train crash. Their entry into the real Narnia does not bypass suffering, but travels through suffering and transfigures it. Lewis shows no desire to spare the faithful from tribulation. Instead, he gives them courage and hope within it. This aligns with Lewis's broader theology, which sees suffering not as something Christians should expect to escape, but as something God can redeem. Number three, an Augustinian ending. Earthly city versus city of God. Lewis is much closer here to Augustine's vision of the city of God. The kingdom of this world rises and falls. They rise and fall. Even Narnia, the place Aslan himself ruled, is not exempt. All of it is finite. What lasts is not the temporal order, but the eternal reality behind it. So when the stable door opens at the end, we find the children entering Aslan's country. Lewis is showing us the eternal Narnia. The Shadowlands have passed away. This new country is not a metaphorical heaven, but a more real, more solid version of what came before. Aslan tells them, the term is over. The holidays have begun. The dream is ended. This is the morning. Their entry into Aslan's country is not escapism. It's an awakening. Death is not the end, but the beginning of true life. Number four, a narrative culmination, the full circle. The last battle also serves as a narrative bookend to The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. In the Wardrobe, we meet Narnia as a place of wonder and moral testing. In the last battle, we are shown the cost of faithfulness, the tragedy of deception, and the joy of final reward. Lewis draws clear lines between the characters who trust Aslan even when they cannot see him, like Emmett, the Calorman who serves Tash with the pure heart, and those who cling to lies. Susan's absence is especially poignant. She has chosen the world of nylon and lipstick over the world of glory. It's Lewis's warning that apostasy is possible, not simply through evil deeds, but through forgetfulness and misplaced desire. Nor is this a bit of male chauvinism. Had the apostate character been one of the boys, the path may have been filled with golf clubs and sport cars. In the final flourish, the geography of Narnia is redeemed and glorified. The new Narnia is more itself than the old Narnia ever was. The unicorn jewel says, I have come home at last. This is my real country. I belong here. This is the land I've been looking for all of my life, though I never knew it till now. Number five, what kind of eschatology is this? Lewis offers what might be best called a biblical imaginative eschatology. It shares elements with all-millennialism, particularly its belief that the present age is a battleground between good and evil that culminates in judgment and resurrection. But it also blends Platonic imagery, the world as a shadow of a more real realm, as well as deep echoes of the book of Revelation, a faithful remnant, the deception of nations, a final judgment, and a new heavens and a new earth. Number six, pastoral implications. Lewis doesn't leave us with despair. He gives us hope beyond death, which is not a disembodied heaven, but a new creation that is more solid, more joyful, and more real than the world we currently live in. He affirms faithfulness matters even when the world is crumbling. Evil will be judged, even if not in our lifetimes. And the end of the story is not the end. but the beginning of the greater story in which every chapter is better than the one before. The last battle doesn't offer a naive comfort that everything in this world will work out neat and tidy. Instead, it gives us something more solid, a transcendent hope that empowers courageous, faithful living, even when the world seems to be unraveling. But what are some of the practical outworkings of this theology? Well, I want to name just a few. First, the environment. When creation groans. We live in an era of climate crisis, biodiversity loss, and eschatological despair. Lewis's portrayal of Narnia's end, where forests fall, rivers dry, and the stars themselves fade, feels eerily prophetic. But he doesn't respond with panic or denial. Instead, he shows creation is good, but not eternal. Narnia was real, beautiful, and deeply loved by Aslan, yet it was never meant to last forever. Its goodness pointed beyond itself. The true world is coming. In Aslan's country, all that was good in Narnia appears again, but deeper, brighter, and more real. This affirms that caring for creation now is not pointless, even if this world is passing. Why? Because it trains us for the new world, and it honors the God who called creation very good. So, we plant trees even when forests burn. Lewis teaches us to live with faithful stewardship and open hands. We care for the earth not because we can guarantee its future, but because we trust the one who holds the future. And the world is precious, even if its existence is but for a little while. We treasure it while we have it. Like so many things in life, we do not get to keep it for long, but we love it while it is ours. War. When the nations rage. C.S. Lewis knew war personally and up close. He fought in World War I and wrote during World War II. In The Last Battle, he shows how war arises from deceit, manipulation, and a lust for power. This idea is embodied by the colorman's conquest and by the false Aslan. Lewis is trying to show us something. What is he trying to show us? He's trying to show us that evil is real and that it often masquerades as good. This is a sobering realism that matches the 21st century world genocides, invasions, and power struggles wrapped in slogans of peace and justice. But judgment is coming. Evil will not get the last word. Lewis doesn't suggest that human history will tidy itself up, but that Aslan, Christ, will step in to judge the world in righteousness. Faithful people are not called to win history, as if we were beating all the levels in a video game, but to be faithful within history. King Tyrion doesn't know how the story ends. He only knows that he must hold fast to Aslan and act justly. That's our task too. We don't need to control the global order. We need to be salt and light within it. What about artificial intelligence when reality feels unreal? AI raises big fears today. Will machines replace us? Will truth dissolve into illusion? Will humanity lose control of what it has made? Lewis anticipates this kind of crisis in the ape named Shift and his false Aslan, a manifested version of God designed for control and propaganda. It's a powerful metaphor for how tools can become idols and how truth can be twisted beyond recognition. But the real Aslan cannot be duplicated. No matter how many lies are told, Aslan still shows up. No AI, no algorithm, no simulation can replace reality. Truth is not a concept, it's a person. Lewis reminds us that we are not at the mercy of our creations. Even the deceived can be redeemed. One of the most remarkable parts of The Last Battle is Emeth, the Kellerman soldier, who served another god, but who did so with a pure heart. Aslan welcomes him, saying, "All the service thou hast done to Tash, I account as service done to me." This speaks directly to an AI age, People may be confused, manipulated, or disoriented, but God sees the heart. He redeems those who seek truth, even in the fog of misinformation and fear. A final reflection. How then shall we live? C.S. Lewis does not give us a blueprint for fixing the world. He gives us clarity, hope, and a calling for being faithful in the world. This includes clarity that the world will not save itself. Only God can do that. Hope that nothing good is lost, only transformed. A calling to live as Narnians, even in the shadowlands, with truth, courage, and wonder. So when Christians today face climate anxiety, wars, or digital confusion, we remember the closing of this book. The things that began to happen after that were so great and beautiful that I cannot write them. But for them, it was only the beginning of the real story. All their life in this world had only been the cover and the title page. Now at last they were beginning chapter 1 of the great story, which no one on earth has read, which goes on forever, and in which every chapter is better than the one before. We live in the final pages of the Shadowland story, but the great story, the one that goes on forever, has already begun in Jesus Christ. That means we live today with resistance and hope, trusting that every act of love, truth, and beauty, even now, is a rehearsal for the real world to come. On my Substack, you'll find some bonus material. And it's about the interface of N.T. Wright and C.S. Lewis. Here's the question. One last question. How does C.S. Lewis's Christian Platonism interface with N.T. Wright's claim that the resurrection means hope for all of creation? Or does it contradict it? To find out more, check me out on Substack.